Hi, everyone, and welcome to Unsupervised Consequences. This is day 4 of this series where I am discussing the aftermath of a vacation where I gained like 16 pounds. My previous series was about how I went from over 450 pounds to very modest 290 pounds and kind of the ongoing struggles that has created. Um, and one of the things that over the last few days we've been talking about, this is a 14-day series where I'm trying to lose that weight again, and in that journey, what I'm learning about myself and trying to duplicate the process. Because in all honesty, if you can't duplicate a process, then the process doesn't work, right? And there's luck, there's circumstances, there's a lot of things. So this is an effort to show that it's not only possible, but it's duplicatable for me and for everyone else as well. All right. In the last series, I talked about things about mindset and understanding, and really going through the process of being able to figure out how it works when it comes to food and fasting and all these things. So one of the things with this is now we're kind of getting to a little bit deeper or a little more complex of a level. One of the things that I want to talk about today was things like rules. We're given a lot of information with regards to what we can and can't do. One of the funny things that I brought up in when I posted this was the idea that you're not allowed to, or you shouldn't swim until a half hour after eating, which it turns out bullshit. Doesn't make any sense. Now, I'm confident that a lot of the rules that we trust to be for our benefit in our daily lives are things that have been passed down from others, maybe experts in their field. So the idea of someone who's a professional swimmer knows that if he eats right afterward, there's a good chance he's going to get a cramp. I, however, am a big fat fatso still, and if I eat and then go swimming, I am just going to float like I normally do. It's not really comparing the same things like apples to apples. And one of the real things that comes up with was the idea of one of the things that I've learned through this has been that you can't out train a diet. If you eat poorly, there is no amount of working out that will save you. That's just that's the science. That's just how it works. So for me, one of the key components to what I'm doing has been fasting, both intermittent and long-term fasting. Now, that being said, I've been met with a lot of people who say, "Oh, I could never do that." When realistically, you never know unless you try. One of the conversations I had today, and the reason why I want to talk about this was where a friend of mine was saying, "Well, I can't work out and be fasting. Like I'm just going to be a miserable person." And I said, "You're absolutely right. That's definitely true. If you worked out heavy and you're not eating, you're gonna be just in constant pain just because your body is just trying to do stuff." Um, but that's not the recommendation. And also, there are a lot of risks when it comes to fasting, right? You have to be careful that if you start to feel faint or lose consciousness because of fasting, um, you've gone too far. Your body cannot sustain it, and that's very dangerous. You could be doing damage to your body. So one of the key components has been that idea that it's not just about willpower and mindset and understanding what's happening, but it's being aware and listening to how you're feeling, right? I was once working out. I went a little bit too hard. I started to get a little bit woozy. So I just stopped, put down the weights, took a seat, relaxed for a little bit, got my breath, calmed down, let my heat drop. I said, okay. And then just and started again, but at a little less intensity, right? So a lot of the things that we're hearing in general are rules. There are things like, oh, one of the best ones was from my 600-pound life was their mom said, if you have a soda, it cancels out if you eat sugar afterward, which you're like, what? What kind of madness is that? That's sugar on top of sugar and that cancels it out. There's no such thing. There's no such thing as canceling those things. And that's the thing is one of the big components of this journey. And I'll be honest with you, yesterday night and today, uh, I've eaten horribly, and it's been very, very poor decisions. But at the same time, uh, you know, trying to still enjoy life, right? That's the whole point of making these changes is to make life enjoyable, right? Lost my joy when I was when I was over 450 pounds. If you lose your joy, then you lose your desire for a lot of things, and that's very dangerous. It's very dangerous for yourself and the people around you as well. So, one of those things is being able to enjoy life in moderation. Like even so, tomorrow I'm going to be smoking meat as I've been doing recently. So, and I already talked to my wife. I said, okay, so once I do that, we're going to have that for our dinner, and then I'm going to fast for the next few days because I just can't. Right? I know that I've gone too far, and now I have to balance myself out. Being of that understanding um, is one of those things where that's part of our growth. That's part of how we understand those next steps. It's not for everybody, but having self control and realizing how your body works is for everybody, right? And like even today, we went and we played a little bit of golf at a simulator. It's very enjoyable. Both of us are sore. I had worked out previously because I knew I was going to be sore, and I'm like, no, I need to stretch things out and do all this stuff, and it worked out to my advantage. It was perfect. But then we ate horribly, and it was delicious, and I love have no regrets about it. But that's the thing is knowing that, then I need to act accordingly going forward. But a lot of people will stay in there and say, "Well, I can't do that." And I have. I remember one gentleman. He kept on coming late to a meeting, and because of his lateness, then his responsibilities would be passed on to somebody else, and somebody else would do it because, well, you're not here. That's and he says, "Well, what am I supposed to do? Not eat dinner?" Because it was in the evening, and I'm like, I don't care. I just don't care. If you're not on time, you can't do the job. So fuck off. And people have it in their mind like one of the things that we're force fed through our life is we have to have 3 square meals. Even people in jail have 3 square meals. So why shouldn't you? Absolutely true. I agree that there is an importance to people being treated with respect and having adequate food to consume. However, if those 3 square meals are food that's not fit for livestock, is it really healthy? I don't think so. So the idea that we have these principles that are ingrained in us and rules that govern our existence aren't really something that will help us grow. They aren't something that will make us um, or keep ourselves in check. So one of the key components through this process and trying to duplicate the process has been make sure that the rules that we follow or the rules that we integrate into the principles of our existence are based on the idea of what we're trying to achieve. If we have principles that don't add value, then they will take away value. And when it takes away value, then we find that uh, it can injure or impede our results, our enjoyment, our motivation, our ability to function, our ability to push forward and push through. Like I said, there's a lot of will and restraint and mental fortitude that goes with this process, but that isn't a thing that you kind of get to and you're like, hey, I'm good. Hey, Roida, thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate that. Oh, I'm talking about rules and the idea that we follow a lot of rules that aren't necessarily for our benefit, right? Like one of the things that I started doing, and that was one of the key components in the beginning, was um, I said I'm not going to eat after 6 p.m. That's just good advice in general. Just whether you're fasting, not or no, no, please don't feel bad. That's why it's here forever. So don't hesitate. I'm only going to go on for a couple more minutes anyway, but the idea is that if we can focus on the rules that we follow that we know are helping us, then they're easy to follow, right? It's one of the things that when my wife is hesitant to um, follow my lead for something, I will remind her and say, I go, have I ever done you dirty, right? Have I ever shown my actions not to be for the benefit of you and this family? No. Okay. So then is that not warrant for a little bit of trust, and we move on. Um, the idea that we're being supported by our decisions, hugely beneficial. But when they impede our enjoyment of existence, then we're going to constantly try and fight them and push back, and only to our own detriment, right? And that's not to say that the rules are bad, but is it right for us? And that's one of the key components, is understanding what instructions are being given and for what purpose. I look back at a lot of the times things that my parents said, "Oh, don't do this," or do this," and things like that. Um, I'll be honest, like in grade 6, I was bullied because my parents were like, never touch anyone. The reason they said it was because I was a big kid and I didn't know my strength. I still have problems with knowing my strength and I'm afraid to use my strength, knowing full well that I can break something very easily. So if I have that ingrained in me, I ended up getting bullied and I was afraid to defend myself because my parents like, don't touch anyone, don't touch anyone. And then I was like, yeah, well, I'm getting bullied. And they're like, so stand up for yourself. I'm like, you said don't touch anyone. They're like, yeah, but if you get touched, touch them back. Remember, this is a long time ago as well. And I'm like, that would have been that information would have been helpful, right? But without having that, I didn't have all the information I needed to make the right decision. And that's one of the key components here, was taking the time to learn, understand what the ultimate goal, because the idea is, um, people will say like, don't steal. Okay, why not? Well, because then people will steal from you. And if there's no system guiding how we have possessions and give possessions and exchange possessions, then we have anarchy and things go to a mess. Oh, okay. So by not stealing, what I'm doing is setting in a system where we respect each other and our property, and it gives us a level of safety and comfort that we find from that. Ta-da! Whereas the alternative is, people will say, "Don't steal," and you're like, "Oh, you're just trying to keep me down. You don't want me to take stuff because you know my life will be better." That's not rational, but we can convince ourselves of that. And that's really, I think, what I really want to discuss here, is that the idea of solidifying how we're benefited will gives us a great understanding of how it can support us, right? Because look, there's a million different diets, surgeries, pills, processes that will benefit you, and they're different for everybody. And ultimately, what matters is being able to have a level of progress. And if there's something that works for you, of course, like myself, I've done my best. I want to share it with everybody because I really feel that it's something beneficial in a time when people are fatter than ever. When we were in the UK, I'll be honest with you, I don't remember people in the UK being as fat as they were. And number one, I felt great because I was like, "Ha, I'm thin now," which I'm not. I'm still very fat. But it was a perspective thing where you're going, this isn't a one time, this isn't a small thing. We're getting affected right across the board by that. And that's a difficult thing to experience and to live with. And uh, uh, we get deluded or poisoned by people kind of singing our praises in our ear, when behind our back they're just going, "Oh, you're a piece of crap." And that's a hard existence to be part of. So I think that's where I'll leave it today, was that let's focus on the details of and how we're benefited by the rules and conditions and guidelines and principles we have, so that we can be motivated to push forward versus blindly following, which ultimately will lead us to nothing good. That's all for today. I'm going to be back tomorrow, and definitely going to keep on with this series for the next little bit. And hopefully, I'm just hoping that I didn't gain weight today because we walked a lot and played golf. Hopefully. Anyways, have a good night, everyone, and thank you very much for watching, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye bye.